You're watching KCRG TV 9, your 24-hour news source. Welcome to the Our Town Special, the best of this year's Our Town tour. We're off to Independence, Anamosa, Dubuque, and Tama, Toledo. Now, here's your host, TV9's Bruce Audi.
Those 4 eastern Iowa communities were kind enough to let us adopt them this summer. For a week at a time, we featured Anamosa, Independence, Dubuque, and Tama and Toledo as our town. And now we want to show you all of the great places we visited on KCRG's Summer Our Town Tour. We began the month of July in Anamosa. Almost 5,500 people live in our town, Anamosa. It's at the junction of Highways 151 and 64. The Wapsipinicon River flows through the community and the nearby state park. The Jones County town is also the birthplace of famous artist Grant Wood. Anamosa Mayor John Hatcher is proud of his town's history. Hatcher spends several hours a week greeting visitors at the Grant Wood Art Gallery and gift shop downtown. 4 years ago, the city renovated the downtown streetscape, updating the streetlights, sidewalks, and infrastructure. The $3 million project was funded by a local option sales tax.
That's one of the things that when people come here, they're impressed with the downtown, the streets and the sidewalks.
Of the 5,500 people who live in our town, Anamosa, 1,300 of those residents live behind large limestone walls. The Anamosa State Penitentiary houses male felons and provides 350 jobs in the community. Some of the inmates work in the Prison Industries Department. They make highway signs, license plates, and wood and metal furniture. Many of these projects support nonprofit and governmental agencies throughout the state.
We feel very fortunate that the community accepts us as they do and appreciates the fact that we are a steady employer. And there are probably very few people in Anamosa that don't either have a family member or personally know someone who works here.
More than 130 years ago, the inmates of the penitentiary built their own prison one stone at a time. And you can trace this story and many others in the prison's new museum. The Anamosa State Penitentiary Museum is housed just outside the limestone walls in the old cheese house. Displays tell stories of life behind bars and famous inmates. 11-year-old John Wesley Elkins is the youngest prisoner to ever be sentenced to life in prison. He spent many days in the Anamosa Penitentiary.
Well, we wanted to preserve the history of the institution because it's a fantastic history of the place, and it is so unique. The entire institution is on the National Register of Historic Places, and we just wanted to preserve the history before it all disappeared.
The museum is open to the public on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays from noon to 4. Well, the new Anamosa Library and Learning Center is a centerpiece in our town. The new $2.2 million building opened just 9 months ago. It's 3 times the size of the old library, and it was completely funded by private donations and a state grant.
It's not like the old library where you have to be all hush-hush all the time. Come in and get on the internet, visit, check out magazines. Just come in and be at home.
More than 500 veterans are honored inside the Jones County Courthouse. Volunteers recently renovated the old smoking room in the courthouse and turned it into a memorial hall. These plaques and flags honor veterans of every war and service who live in Jones County.
Well, I don't care where you served, when you served. As far as I'm concerned, everybody is equal. They've all put in their time to protect the country.
My family's here. I've got 8 members of my family displayed on these boards. But I also know so many more of these folks. So I can look at the plaques and reflect on, how I knew those folks. And, it's nice that we all have that connection.
Tourism and retail provide the largest tax base for our town, Anamosa. The Chamber of Commerce plans to take advantage of these strengths with a new park. The new Chamber Park is a simple, wide-open green space just off downtown. Residents plan to use the area for the annual Pumpkin Fest and add some new events as well.
The Chamber and the downtown businesses were looking for somewhere where tourists and residents could go, where we might be able to have, a band on an evening and keep the stores open later, where we might be able to utilize for some of our events.
Ask a motorcycle rider about Anamosa, and you will hear about one of our town's most famous businesses. J&P Cycles is the largest retailer of aftermarket Harley-Davidson parts in the world. John and Jill Parham started the business in their garage in 1979. Now they employ 300 people in our town, Anamosa.
We could have moved this business anywhere to ship product out, but we grew up in the small town here, and we love living in Anamosa still, and we love raising our child here, and so we stayed.
It's a wonderful place to live, raise a family, and Iowa is just that, you know, people don't realize how good Iowa is. They don't realize that.
The Parhams plan to expand to J&P Cycles into Florida later this year, but they say Anamosa will always be their headquarters. Our town, Anamosa, is also the home of the National Motorcycle Museum.
It's not just motorcycles, it's memorabilia, it's posters, it's photographs. We have thousands of photographs and literature, so you can really, when you come in there, you can go back in time.
John Parham moved the museum to the Jones County community 4 years ago. After adding items from his own collection, the museum features 190 motorcycles dating back as far as the early 1900s. The nonprofit museum draws more than 14,000 visitors to Anamosa each year. Parham says you just can't beat the feeling you get when you ride a motorcycle.
It gives you a freedom. You know, you're out there, you're in the air, you're going down the road, you got the wind, and I mean, one of the things, you've never seen a motorcycle parked in front of a psychiatrist's office, have you?
Now we're going to step just outside our town city limits to Stone City. Many Anamosa residents work for a limestone quarry called Weber Stone. It took 420 million years to develop the pure limestone in the quarry. KCRG TV 9's Cassie Willis shows us how this one-of-a-kind stone from eastern Iowa is known around the country.
It's exciting. It's an exciting place to work, exciting place to be. We saw it, we polish it, we profile it, we sandblast it. This blade is 11.5 feet in diameter. This weighs 55,000 pounds. We're just expanding and expanding. This was donated by the class of 2002 to the Cedar Falls High School, and these are going to the Coralville clock tower. We're also supplying stone for the Riverside Casino and Resort. Have you been there? Oh, you have to. It is unreal. Florida, New Jersey, and Wisconsin, and 2 huge projects we had in California and one in Missouri. We say we have at least 300 years of stone remaining. So it's very, very different stone and does make it a finer product. This vein of stone runs all the way to town or to that quarry in Anamosa. It means strength, it means vitality, it means employment. So it really connects us to the town of Anamosa. That is a great line right there.
Now, Weber Stone is just one of 3 quarries of its kind in the world. There's one in Italy, one in Russia, and one in our town, Anamosa. Future growth is expected on the north side of our town, Anamosa. Developers of the Anamosa Commercial Park hope to attract a hotel, restaurant, and other businesses to that area. This 21-acre park provides direct access to Highway 151 near our town.
We are growing. We are a manufacturing county, definitely a rural county from that standpoint, but we do have a lot of manufacturers. We have a big plastics industry and a big welding industry.
The county partnered with Kirkwood Community College to offer a welding education program over the school year. 10 qualified welders graduated from the new program, and half found jobs in the area. Finally, in our town, Anamosa, we adopted a special couple named Larry and Sandy Taylor. KCRG TV 9's Cassie Willis learned that mixing coffee and eyeglasses helped their marriage last 45 years.
There they are, ready to go. Chocolate chunk.
Sandy Taylor is cooking up some delicious baked goods in her downtown Anamosa kitchen. Sandy's kitchen is just a few feet away from her husband Larry's optical shop.
When I'm busy, she'll usually come out of the kitchen, and when I'm not busy, she's usually in the kitchen. So
The Taylors have found a way to blend their talents, a coffee shop on one side of the store and an optician shop on the other. Both Sandy and Larry grew up in our town, Anamosa, but they moved away for 20 years while Larry served in the Navy.
If we had never gone into the Navy life, I never would have been able to do this, because I learned more than just meat, potatoes, and vegetables.
The Taylors say they came back to Anamosa for the strong school system and the state's beauty. They're pleased to see our town grow and develop.
we're seeing a lot of out-of-town visitors. Yeah, it's just moving in the right direction. We still got a ways to go, but we're on the right path.
In our town, Anamosa, Cassie Willis, KCRG TV9 News.
Sandy Taylor's most famous treat is cheesecake on a stick. She invented the dessert for her son 30 years ago, and now it's a favorite in our town, Anamosa. Well, now that you know why Anamosa is a great place to live, let's travel to our town, Independence, next. We'll take you there right after this. Welcome back to this Our Town special. The second stop on KCRG's tour of eastern Iowa is Independence. This Buchanan County community is making great strides in economic development. 6,000 people live in our town, Independence, which is along Highway 150. The town lies between Waterloo and Dubuque, right near Highway 20. The Wapsipinicon River flows right through downtown Independence and is the source of much of this town's history. First, let's look at our town, Independence's most famous landmark, the Wapsipinicon Mill. More than 150 years ago, the mill created flour from corn and buckwheat. Now it's a museum featuring milling and agricultural displays. Several local and state grants have funded new exhibits.
The mill has been on this river since, of course, day one, and it's a local landmark, and even the City of Independence has a logo on all of their city trucks.
On the east side of town, the Buchanan County Historical Society is renovating Lee Mansion. This historical mansion was home to the first mayor of our town, Independence. Later, an addition to the building was turned into a hospital. Now volunteers are restoring the mansion into a museum as their funding permits. Beneath the sidewalks of downtown Independence, you can find remnants of a different town. History experts tell us there is a town under the town. This basement used to face downtown Independence. After several years of flooding, store owners abandoned their first-floor storefronts and moved upstairs. Now most of the old storefronts are shored up with stones and sand.
City fathers in the 1860s said, okay guys, we're going to raise the level of the street 6 foot, and your first floor is now going to be your basement.
Now we take a closer look at a 100-year-old tradition in downtown Independence. KCRG TV9's Cassie Willis shows how a simple blackboard honors former residents of our town.
A morning walk through downtown Independence isn't complete without a stop at S&K Collectibles. Store owner Chris McGraw doesn't serve coffee or donuts or even sell newspapers. Walkers come to see a 4-foot by 4-foot chalkboard inside her shop's front window.
It's original to the building, which was built in 1896. It was originally a bookstore, and this board was used as a notice to the town's residents of births, deaths, other events going on in the community.
Now it's strictly known as the obituary board. When McGraw bought the building, she inherited this weekly duty.
We get the notices now via the fax machine or email. My mother-in-law and people before her got them via the telephone. And I'm sure that before that, before there were phones, it was probably a personal messenger.
No matter how the funeral notices come in, a simple piece of chalk honors the lives of residents from all over Buchanan County.
To me, it's an honor and I guess a tribute, because that way people know about services and visitations. And I guess maybe it's a way of the town saying goodbye to that person. It's a tradition in Independence. It's been here for over 100 years. And as far as I know, everybody who's ever had a business in this building has carried this tradition on. So, and I suppose the next person who might move in here when I'm gone will have to take on that tradition just like we've all done in the past.
Every week in Our Town Independence, new names are added to the board and old ones are erased. Another sign of the passing of time. In Our Town Independence, Cassie Willis, KCRG, TV9 News.
Chris McGraw says the old saying that things come in threes is true. She says you'll usually find 3 funeral notices on the obituary board at the same time. City planners are making the most of Our Town Independence's natural beauty. Several new parks are open to residents. The newest parks include the RV Park and the River Walk Parks. The RV Park along Highway 150 on the south side of town was built by volunteers 4 years ago. And just 2 years ago, Our Town Independence turned a floodplain into a series of parks along the riverfront. The new River Walk Parks feature a bandshell, shelters, and basketball and volleyball courts.
The Riverwalk Park was actually established when we established a committee and decided what to do with the FEMA buyout. All this used to be homes down here. And so we established that about 2 years ago and kind of started looking at what we needed to do and what the community needed.
Now Our Town Independence plans to build a new library. The old library provides only 2,300 square feet for public use. The new $2.5 million library will be 6 times that size. Space is very limited in the old library. Only half the adult fiction collection is open for public browsing. And all library programs have to be held off-site because there's just no room. Volunteers are raising funds for the project right now, and they hope to break ground on the new library next spring.
It'll really be a community center where people can go and hang out. And this library is more of a, you come in, you get what you need, and you leave, because there isn't room to stay and read and relax.
The new library will be built on land near the historic Lee Mansion in Independence. And the city's daycare center is expanding too. The school system is adding on to Kidsville Early Learning Center. Organizers plan to integrate the preschool, special education, and Head Start programs. The new addition will provide more classrooms, teacher training space, and provide room for the daycare to expand.
So it'll hopefully be an early childhood center for all the children in Independence and the surrounding areas. So it's really will be a model center. I don't think there's anyone else that has done that yet.
Our Town Independence maintains a very steady economy and population base. More than 6,000 people live here. That number has stayed about the same now for the last 30 years. New commercial and industrial growth is in the works, and 2 entrepreneurial businesses moved to Independence recently to get a good start.
We do have a smaller entrepreneurism spirit here in town, eCreative Marketing and also Q3 Innovations. A lot of them are people that have moved back from other states, come back to Independence, Iowa to start their own companies.
Some of the most successful businesses in our town are 2nd and 3rd generation family-owned businesses. Gator Machining and Manufacturing is the largest manufacturing employer in Independence. 120 employees create metal components for airplane cockpits and other transportation vehicles. The 2nd generation family-owned company is managed by residents who were born and raised in our town.
I think it's a good thing for Independence to have local leaders that care about the community, that are really focused on keeping the jobs here whenever possible.
The 3rd generation of the Nielsen family is running the local creamery in our town. 300 family farms and 20 milk haulers bring more than 1 million pounds of milk to the Wapsie Valley Creamery every day. Then the 70 employees at the creamery turn that milk into 6 different kinds of cheese and 2 whey products. You won't see the Wapsie Valley brand at your local grocery store, though. All of the company's products are sold under private cheese and infant formula labels. The creamery is celebrating 100 years in business this year.
I mean, I look back when I first started 25 years ago, and we had almost the same number of employees and made 1/3 the product, and now we've added some some employment over the years, but most of it's been through new equipment that makes the job easier.
One of those new startups is Q3 Innovations. 2 Independence High School graduates moved back to our town last year to build their new business. Q3 Innovations focuses on research and development of personal safety and monitoring devices, like the personal alcohol tester. The AlcoHawk digitally screens your breath for alcohol content. The company operates worldwide from our town Independence.
We basically are extremely happy to be in Independence, and we hope that we're helping the community as much as we can and offering people jobs and hopefully continuing to grow.
Other devices on the market include a touchless thermometer and a personal ultraviolet sunlight meter. Well, one of the other new businesses in our town Independence came from Texas. eCreative Group is an entrepreneurial advertising agency that specializes in recruitment advertising and website development. The group's clients stretch from Los Angeles to Atlanta. The owner of the new business says he can offer big city service from the comfort of a small town.
We could have taken it to Des Moines or Cedar Rapids or Cedar Falls. We felt initially we needed to give ourselves a better chance of success by starting in a small community.
If you drive on Highway 20 past Independence, you can't miss the construction of a large wooden barn. This barn is the first phase of a new tourist attraction called Heartland Acres Agribition Center. The multi-million-dollar project is funded by a Vision Iowa grant and private donations. Heartland Acres is designed to showcase the past, present, and future of agriculture here in Iowa. And once the barn is complete at the end of this year, a machine shed, an interpretive center, and energy conservation lab will all be added.
This is a barn like you don't see built anymore. This is a replica of an 1800s barn, except with glue lam timbers, styrofoam insulated panels. It's the modern technology of how you would have built one if you were in the 1890s and had the opportunity to do it this way.
The Agribition Center has inspired others to invest in our town Independence. So far, a hotel and movie theater have been built near the center. A restaurant and convenience store will be added soon. And finally, in our town Independence, we travel a few miles east of town to a farm that's blooming with color. The Speece family specializes in collector hostas, water plants, and an independent spirit on 4 wheels.
Josh Speece grew up in the country, so it makes sense that his business grows in the country.
The hostas are kind of my favorite. This little white one here is fireworks. Then to the right of that is Delta Dawn and stained glass.
Josh started the gardening business with his mother, Sue, 8 years ago.
He does a lot of consultations, and he does all the ordering, all the bookkeeping. I try to keep up on the weeds, which isn't always done, but I try.
Sue and other family members do the labor while Josh does the planning from his wheelchair.
Well, I was born with spinal muscular atrophy. It's a form of muscular dystrophy, and so it's something I've had my whole life.
The nerves at the bottom of the spine are damaged and are weakened, and so it starts more in the lower extremities, and then it's progressive.
Josh and his 2 siblings were born with the same disease.
And, you know, Jacob, he does as much as he can. He has a wagon that he pulls around and hauls feed in and feeds his calves. And so, you know, we try to modify things to make them as independent as possible.
As an independent business owner, Josh has turned his favorite hobby into a growing business.
I just like seeing things grow, and every day there's something different to see.
And Sue says she's proud to see her children grow.
Want them to accomplish their dreams as much as they possibly can, I guess.
In our town Independence, Cassie Willis, KCRG TV9 News.
Sue Speece's middle child, Jackie, was crowned Miss Wheelchair of Iowa this year. Well, that was a whirlwind tour of our town Independence. We'll show you the best of our town Dubuque when we come back. Welcome back to this KCRG TV9 News Special. We adopted 5 eastern Iowa communities this summer as our town, and Dubuque was our third stop. About 60,000 people live in our town, Dubuque. The Mississippi River curls around the east side of town, and highways 20, 151, and 61 converge inside the city. Our town has become a tourist destination and hub of economic development. It was just 25 years ago when a small Dubuque business made T-shirts that read, "Will the last person to leave Dubuque shut off the lights?" But today's city leaders say Dubuque has made a complete turnaround. KCRG TV9's Dubuque reporter Katie Wiedemann takes a closer look at the recent growth.
He's wheeling and he's dealing. For 18 years, Doug Nielsen's been selling hot dogs in Washington Park.
You know, it's improved since when I first started.
City leaders say business in Dubuque is booming, from the small businesses to Dubuque's biggest employers.
Dubuque ranks #1 in job growth for the last 12 months. It ranks #1 in job growth for the last 4 years in the entire state of Iowa.
Dickinson says Dubuque's new Port of Dubuque is just one piece of evidence of the city's growing economy. He says it's also the westward expansion of major roads, homes, and retail business.
We've seen the growth at Northwest Arterial. We've seen growth on the mall in Asbury Square. I mean, these things are making a difference in the quality of life, and they make a difference in sales tax receipts. They make a difference in employment in retail.
Dickinson says these projects all happening at the same time is what led to the boost in the economy, making Dubuque what he calls the envy of the Midwest.
We have bold leadership. We have, I think, a community, people that really are loving their town once again.
And loving it, they are. Who wouldn't? After all, they can buy a hot dog right here on the street. In our town, Dubuque, Katie Wiedemann, KCRG TV9 News.
Dickinson says Dubuque's next big project is building the Southwest Arterial. The new road will relieve congestion along Highway 20 in our town. The city is also planning to renovate its 103-year-old library. Organizers hope to raise $5.3 million to restore the Carnegie Stout Library. By changing the floor plan, workers will add 8,000 more square feet for public use. The director says the renovation will meet new technology needs.
Of course, now that you can get a book in nearly 8 different formats, and we are continually evolving and trying to meet the needs of people. So we have a variety of services and a variety of formats. This is not our grandparents' library anymore.
Construction on the library should begin in September of next year. Well, believe it or not, there are 865 acres of parks in Dubuque. The Rivertown makes a beautiful setting for 42 different city parks. The 3 main parks are Flora, Murphy, and Eagle Point. Flora Park is home to the city's largest swimming pool. Murphy Park provides panoramic views of downtown Dubuque. And Eagle Point is the largest park in our town. The 164-acre park sits high on the Iowa Bluff along the Mississippi River and provides a view of Wisconsin, Illinois, and a lock and dam.
And I think the citizens of Dubuque are proud of our system, and we sure hope they are, because that's what we work for.
The City Parks Department is in the second phase of construction of a new park on the Hawthorne Street Peninsula along the Mississippi. And our town, Dubuque, is making the most of its location on the mighty Mississippi. The Port of Dubuque offers visitors beautiful views and several entertainment options. The National Mississippi River Museum, Diamond Joe Casino, and the Grand River Convention Center overlook the river walk between Ice and Dove harbors. Farther north, Schmidt Island is home to the Greyhound Park and Casino, a recreational complex, and 2 restaurants. You can see the entire Port of Dubuque from any of several riverboats. For the past decade, our town, Dubuque, has focused on developing this riverfront.
This project really opened up the riverfront to everyone in the community. Everyone is a part of this. They can be proud of this project. And it signifies how progressive our community has become.
Now imagine a 3-dimensional theater where you can view scenes from the Mississippi River. That's what's soon to be the next phase of Dubuque's America's River Project. River Museum directors say the project will expand into the old Adams Company area. Construction will begin next year on a RiverMax 3D theater and a Rivers of America museum. Directors expect the second phase to double the number of visitors to the Port of Dubuque.
Well, right now this museum draws 250,000 visitors, and we will increase that by 50%. So we'll be up to 370,000 visitors.
The city of Dubuque is leasing the land in the Port of Dubuque to the museum. The River City is growing and adding more jobs all the time. The Dubuque Industrial Park on the west side of the city provides 1,000 acres of land for development. The city partnered with the nonprofit Dubuque Initiatives Group to develop the park. So far, 8 businesses have moved into the area, offering 500 jobs. 2 more companies plan to break ground before the end of the year.
As of this year, we're at 56,000 employees in Dubuque County, which is an all-time high for Dubuque County. And as a matter of fact, over the last 3 years, we've been responsible for 10% of the job growth in the state, even though we only have 3% of the population.
That is just part of the new development along the Northwest Arterial in our town, Dubuque. The Asbury Business Park is a new commercial development on the west side of our town. Realtors and developers began planning the project 11 years ago. Now dozens of retailers are keeping shoppers in Dubuque.
But it does create some more jobs, but also the biggest thing is the shopping opportunities to stop the leakage out of town.
From passenger trains to a medical clinic for the uninsured, Dubuque has 10 big ideas for the future. KCRG TV9's Dubuque reporter Katie Wiedemann took a closer look at Our Town Dubuque's Envision 10 project.
City leaders in Dubuque wanted to know how big the community could dream. In January, they got their answer.
We wanted it to be citizen engagement and not just community leaders telling us what we need, and we feel it was very successful.
Topping Nancy Van Milligan's list, a health care center for the uninsured.
Community Health Center is about to open in September, late September or October. We're very excited about that.
Some of Dubuque's oldest warehouses look like they should be torn down. Instead, plans are in the works to bring these old buildings back to life.
They want a lot of green space, outdoor space, meeting spaces, maybe music schools. We've got people interested in having kitchen schools and different things like that.
The Warehouse Committee is working to get these buildings on the National Register of Historic Places. That would make the Warehouse District eligible for state and federal dollars. The dream is there, they just need the money.
It's absolutely going to happen. It's not a matter of if, but when.
Plans for a passenger train to travel from Dubuque to Chicago and back are chugging along. That committee is teaming up with the Railroad Commission in Illinois. Yet another dream getting closer to reality.
Other Envision 10 ideas include developing the second phase of the America's River project, making wireless internet available throughout the city, building a performing arts center and integrated bike-hike trail system. The city also wants to provide better mental health services and bilingual education for all students. Expanding the city's public library also tops the list. Many of these projects are well on their way toward completion. Finally, we delve into some of the tastiest treats in our town, Dubuque. We sent KCRG TV9's Cassie Willis into the candy kitchen at Dubuque's most famous candy company.
Sugar's in my blood, I guess.
John Hines is a third-generation chocolatier.
We haven't really departed from the way that our grandparents made the candies years ago.
Hines and his 2 sisters carry on a family tradition at Betty Jane Candies in our town, Dubuque.
We use copper kettles, typical of most candy companies, and make the batches from scratch, stir them by hand until they get to the point where they're too thick, and we have a machine that kind of helps stir them until they're finished.
The Kettle Fresh candies come in all shapes, sizes, and flavors. Their trademark is the gremlin.
We start with caramel, and it's deposited on top of whole pecan halves, and then it's covered in milk and dark chocolate.
This candy assembly line makes 150 pounds of gremlins in 2.5 hours. If these candies don't satisfy your sweet tooth, maybe the ice cream counter will. Many of the Betty Jane candies are blended into homemade ice cream, too. After 68 years in business, Betty Jane Candies is the most popular sweet spot in our town, Dubuque. Cassie Willis, KCRG TV9 News.
But Dubuquers with a craving for caramel turn to Our Lady of the Mississippi Abbey. Every fall, the Trappistine nuns make creamy caramels and other candies by hand. The Nuns' newest creation is a caramel sauce available in a squeeze bottle. They say they have the only candy-making company in the country with a special room set aside just for prayer.
It's really good to have a place where we can put the work aside and just go back to where we are, you know, stop worrying about what's happening on the crew or what has to be done next, or just kind of regroup, and we're at prayer. This is what our life is about.
We always find something interesting in our town, and when we return, we'll take a closer look at our town, Tama, Toledo. Stay with us. Welcome back to this Our Town special. Well, now it's time to take you to Tama County to meet the people of Tama and Toledo. We adopted both communities as our town during our final stop of the Eastern Iowa tour. Each community is home to about 2,500 people. Our town Toledo is just north of our town Tama on Highway 63 along Highway 30. The Iowa River flows through the south side of Tama, and the Meskwaki Indian settlement sits just east of each community. These towns share many resources while maintaining their individual identities and blending several different cultures as well. Tama Mayor Chris Bearden says a new ethanol plant will be built in Tama later this year, creating 80 new jobs. Also, a rendering plant is in the works, offering another 25 jobs. In the meantime, the city's Indian Hills Housing Addition has 14 new homes on it and capacity for 38 more. Bearden says this progress is the beginning of a strong future for our town Tama.
I grew up in this past, and I'm always going to be looking towards this future. So anything that I can get, anything that's happening in Iowa, I want it to happen here. And that's what we're going after.
Volunteers are showing the same spirit when it comes to revitalizing downtown Tama. The city has set aside $250,000 as an incentive to downtown business owners. Revitalization committee members hope to inspire a makeover along West 3rd Street, and the goal is to make the buildings more appealing, retain existing businesses, and attract new businesses and visitors.
Ultimately, we hope to get back to a point that hear the stories from the older generation that says that, you know, the town used to be full of cars, and we'd like to get back to that, make it a fun experience for families to come down and visit.
Downtown Tama also sits along one of the Union Pacific Railroad's main lines. Tama residents say a train rumbles by about every 7 minutes. In the future, committee members hope to find a way to quiet the trains without inhibiting their progress. On the other hand, our town Toledo benefits from its location on Highway 30. Toledo has two business districts, one along the highway and another surrounding Courthouse Square. The city already spent $800,000 on infrastructure for the 4-lane expansion of Highway 30. Planners believe our town will continue to grow with its visibility along the major thoroughfare, but the city is also trying to prepare for that growth.
Housing, I think, is kind of like the chicken and the egg. Everybody wants jobs, but you have to have a place for people to live, and so housing has been our main priority.
Our town Toledo's new Civic Center is drawing more tourists to the community. The Reinig Toledo Civic Center was built last year with a donation from the late Leona Reinig. The $1.5 million building offers a banquet room for up to 450 people and houses the county's economic development offices.
But it's been a beautiful center, and we've drawn people here from Marshalltown, even Waterloo, for their receptions. And so we kind of have a little tourist thing going here.
The Meskwaki tribe has become more than a neighbor to our town Tama, Toledo. The tribe's casino is the largest employer in the area. More than 1,100 people work for the Meskwaki Bingo Casino Hotel. Soon another 250 jobs will be added. The casino opened the first phase of a $111 million expansion last week. The casino manager says the tribe is continuing a project that started in 1989 with a simple bingo hall.
A lot of people maybe look at it and see that, you know, it's just the fruits of what had taken place before, and now it's being successful. But really, it's an ongoing success story. It's something that started, you know, 13, 14 years ago. Even when you look back to some of the old facility here that was just strictly a bingo hall, but it has been a maturation of not only the casino, but the tribe.
However, the largest employer inside the city of Tama is Tama Paperboard. 100 employees turn your old boxes and newspapers into new paperboard for cereal and cracker boxes. Operations Manager John Richter tells us how the process works.
We bring in raw material or bales of paper from about a 300-mile radius, and we recycle 180 tons a day. 9 truckloads come in the back door and out the front door every day. First thing we do is add water and beat it up, much like you do with your blender at your house. And then we spend the rest of the process trying to get it formed up and get the water back out of it. And once we get it up on the dry end, where it's dry and we've added the coating to the top, then we'll slit it into whatever size the customers want. Any box that you find on a grocery store shelf, it could be made out of our board.
Another large employer in the area is the Iowa Juvenile Home and State Training School for Girls in our town, Toledo. KCRG TV9's Cassie Willis learned the state facility cares for kids who couldn't make it anywhere else.
More than 80 at-risk teenagers make the Iowa Juvenile Home their home. To live here, they've been in an average of 10 other detention centers.
I was doing a lot of running away and stealing cars, and I was just doing a lot of negative behaviors.
Abby Moore recently graduated from the program. She spent 6 months learning life skills like how to build positive relationships, how to resist peer pressure, and anger management.
Kids who come to us have a very difficult history, and many of the kids that come to us are known in their local communities for things that they didn't do well. But this is an opportunity for them to learn how to do those things better.
The teenagers who come here also learn how to serve their community and how to get a job. The smallest Hy-Vee grocery store in the state serves as a training center at the Iowa Juvenile Home. This may be their last chance to learn how to take care of themselves.
Many of our kids have been victims of physical and sexual abuse over time, so there's a big piece of trauma in their lives that needs to be resolved.
The superintendent says this is the place for troubled teens to find those resolutions.
Ready to go home and do all the good things that I know I can do.
In our town, Toledo, Cassie Willis, KCRG TV9 News.
The Iowa Juvenile Home is also planning for expansion. During the last session, the legislature set aside more than $8 million to renovate and expand the main school building on campus. And finally, in our town, Tama, we sampled a few sweet treats at the Tama Bakery. For 45 years now, Hans and Linda Moeller have owned the bakery. KCRG TV9's Cassie Willis talked to them about their upcoming retirement.
6 days a week, 12 hours a day, you'll find Hans Moeller in the kitchen of his downtown bakery.
Sugar shortening, a little salt, a little water, tender love and care.
Hans and his wife Linda have owned the Tama Bakery for 41 years now. Hans learned the trade in his native Germany more than 5 decades ago, but this will be his final year at the oven.
My body kind of tells me time to hang it up.
The 86-year-old baker plans to retire in December, so these are the last few months you can taste the sweetness of his jelly-filled Bismarcks, pecan rolls, and his trademark peanut butter-flavored pastry, the Jimmy.
You don't find too many of those, you know, but they're about my favorite, but I got to stay away from them. I got to watch my sugar.
His loyal customers stop by several times a week.
Eat 1 roll a day. Not any more than that, because you can gain weight. He'll tell you he takes the calories out, but I never figured out how.
And this is the type of bakery where you can just make yourself at home.
The small town people stick together. Like in the mornings when he's gone for delivery and ain't nobody around, we have people come in and got keys that just open up, make coffee, and sell donuts for us.
The Moellers celebrated 41 years of marriage on July 17th. Now, they say, they're ready for retirement. In our town, Tama, Cassie Willis, KCRG TV9 News.
You saw the bakery's signature roll, the Jimmy, in that story. Well, Hans created that peanut butter concoction in the 1970s while Jimmy Carter was president. In honor of the former president's occupation as a peanut farmer, he dubbed them Jimmys. Well, we're not the only ones who get to travel to our town. KCRG TV9's John Campbell and Sean Terrell came too, and we'll show you what they found right after this. Welcome back to this KCRG TV9 News Special. From dirt tracks to snowy slopes, KCRG TV9's John Campbell and Sean Terrell found some of the most interesting sports stories in eastern Iowa this summer. Brett Esser loves telling people he's a snowboarder from our town Dubuque, but the 13-year-old phenom has already outgrown the terrain and the competition in the state.
Brett Esser's first experience on a snowboard is not something he recalls fondly.
My brother was holding my hand and he had his one foot out, just guided me down the whole hill, and I could barely go down the hill.
That was 6 years ago. Today, Esser is considered one of the best 13-year-old snowboarders in the United States. In March, he finished third at the Junior U.S. Open.
I was probably the happiest kid alive. Staying on the podium, I don't know. It just felt like there was such a big crowd watching, and I was like, oh, this is awesome.
Awesome for a kid from Dubuque. Iowa, as most are aware, is not the most mountainous state, and when skateboarding 6 months a year didn't cut it, the Esser family made a big decision. They'd move Brett to Colorado.
And we would do it again, definitely do it again. And again, he's just showed us that with hard work and diligence and his goals, he can do it.
This past year was Brett's first as a member of Team Summit, an elite snowboarding club.
The 1 year that I didn't go to Colorado and then the next year I went to Colorado, how much I learned, that's probably the coolest thing about it, because I've just progressed so much more.
And Brett will move back to Colorado for 6 months starting in October. It's the best way to reach his ultimate goal.
To get to the pro circuit, and then once I get to the pro circuit, the Olympics is in my head for sure.
Look for Brett Esser in Toronto in 2010.
Our town, Tama, Toledo, is home to some of the best motocross riders in the state. Someday they hope to have a big-time track of their own. For now, the seed has been planted with the Tama County OHV Park.
We're having a lot of people in the community buying, motorcycles and four-wheelers with no place to ride. So we got together and tossed the idea around and kind of worked out with the city and our local paper mill here and got some ground, and that's where we're at now.
Riding the course at our request for 50-year-old Steve Chima, a 5-time District 22 champ. His son Chad, who won state last year and leads the plus 25 division this year. And 19-year-old Kurt Kupka, who also won a state title last year.
It meant a lot. I mean, we was gone every weekend racing, trying to earn those points to win that. It's got to be about one of the toughest sports.
How so?
Last year I broke my collarbone racing, and I mean, you always got something injured.
Foot pegs and stuff from hitting you.
To prevent injury, Chad wears a protective chest plate, goggles, special boots, and of course, a helmet.
I don't really know. Just taking a beating on it. Got some good scars back here from crashing and stuff, and at least it protects my head.
Ironically, it was a non-racing injury that put the senior citizen of this trio on a bike.
Well, I was on Cedar Rapids watching my boys race, and at the end of the night, I stepped off the bleachers and broke my ankle. And I said I'd never come to another one without being in a competition. Well, this is a practice facility for us. If one of our practice tracks are wet or muddy or out of condition, we'll come down here and we'll practice on this track here.
For now, they go to other tracks to race, but the hope is to develop a big-time motocross track at this site in our town, Tama, Toledo.
A little slick out there?
Oh, it's getting slick. Getting real slick out there. Yep, we're done for the day.
The 300-acre park is just north of the river, and there are lots of off-road trails and a camping area as well. Well, as you can see, some of the best places on earth are right here in eastern Iowa. That's why KCRG takes this tour each summer and adopts these communities as our town. To the people in Anamosa, Independence, Dubuque, Tama, and Toledo, thank you for making your town our town. We enjoyed our visits, and we hope you did too. And thank you for watching. Have a great day.